5 armed men cornered tech billionaire Alexander Pierce in the Grand Meridian Hotel lobby. Derek Stone pressed a silenced pistol against his head. "Tonight you die, Pierce." Kesha Williams pushed her cleaning cart nearby, blending into the background in her hotel uniform. Derek's cold eyes caught her movement. "Hey, you," he said sharply. "See this gun? See what's happening? Walk away and keep your mouth shut, or I'll put a bullet in your worthless skull." His partner laughed. "Think it understands? These animals know their place." Derek sneered. "Don't you, cleaning lady? Stay invisible like a good little __. Now get lost before I make you a problem." Kesha's hands tightened on the cart handle. Years of scrubbing floors had made her fingers rough, but beneath that calm surface lived something dangerous. What happened next would break the internet and change everything. The Grand Meridian Hotel towered 43 stories over downtown Seattle. Its marble lobby was like a cathedral of wealth, shiny, quiet, and filled with power. Tech executives closed billion-dollar deals over champagne, while workers like Kesha moved through the shadows unseen, serving but never acknowledged. Kesha had worked there for 6 years. Every morning at 5, she caught the buses from her small apartment in South Seattle. She was a single mother of 2, Maya, 12, and Jordan, 8. Double shifts barely covered rent and food. To the guests, she was invisible, just a cleaning lady restocking towels and emptying trash. They never noticed how sharply her eyes scanned each hallway, or how precisely she moved through each room. They couldn't see the faded tan line on her finger where a wedding ring once sat, or the small challenge coin hidden in her pocket, because Kesha Williams carried secrets that would change everything people thought they knew about her. Before the hotel, she'd been a Navy SEAL 3 classified tours overseas, an expert in close quarters combat and tactical elimination. She'd saved lives in Syria, fought through ambushes in Afghanistan, and completed missions so secret they were still buried in government files. But that was before the injury that ended her career, before her husband Marcus died in a training accident, leaving her to raise 2 kids alone, before she traded combat boots for mops and tried to disappear into civilian life. Alexander Pierce wasn't like the other rich guests. He always said please and thank you. Last Christmas, when Jordan needed emergency surgery, a mysterious payment cleared the hospital bill. Kesha suspected it was Alexander, though he never admitted it. He had built his fortune on quantum encryption technology strong enough to protect nations. But his upcoming congressional testimony was about to expose Russian cyber warfare operations, and powerful people wanted him dead. Derek Stone represented those people. Derek was a former Spetsnaz operative turned international assassin. He led a crew of professional killers who made their money by erasing problems. Tonight's hit was worth $10 million. They'd arrived separately over 3 days. Cameras disabled. Police distracted by fake emergencies. It was the perfect plan, except for one mistake. They thought the cleaning lady was harmless. That evening, as Kesha restocked supplies in the penthouse suite, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her gut. Her instincts, trained by years of combat, whispered danger. Something was off. Through the window, Seattle's skyline glittered like cold glass under the night sky. Somewhere below, predators were getting ready to hunt. Her watch read 6 o'clock p.m. Alexander was due at 8:30 for a dinner meeting, the same meeting Derek's team had whispered about all week. Earlier that day, Kesha had been cleaning the executive conference room when she heard muffled voices. Through the thin wall, she paused, cloth in hand. "Target arrives at 8:30, Derek said, his tone flat and professional. "Security will be light. We eliminate him in the lobby. Stage it as a robbery." Kesha's heart tightened. "What about witnesses?" Another man asked. "Staff dismissed early for a fake gas leak. Cameras looped. Police distracted. Clean job." She froze. They were planning a murder. Her training switched on threat assessment, mission awareness options. Through the crack in the door, she caught Derek's reflection in the window, tall and sharp-eyed, holding a tablet showing the hotel's blueprints. "Pierce thinks he's meeting investors. Instead, he meets us," Derek said with a thin smile. $10 million to silence one man. Easy money. Kesha backed away quietly, pretending to wipe tables as her heart pounded. She knew that name, Alexander Pierce, the man who might have saved her son's life. Suddenly, the door swung open. Derek stood there, staring at her. "How long have you been out here?" Kesha lowered her eyes. "Just started this room, sir." "What did you hear?" "Nothing, sir. Just cleaning." He studied her face. "Good. Because cleaning ladies who hear too much sometimes slip on wet floors. Accidents happen. Understand?" "Yes, sir," she whispered. "Smart girl. Now finish and get lost." He slammed the door shut. Her hands trembled as she packed her things. Part of her wanted to call the police. The other part the soldier wanted to act. She looked at her phone. 6:15. Alexander would arrive in 2 hours. She could walk away and forget everything. Or she could honor the oath she'd sworn years ago, to protect the innocent from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Her fingers brushed the challenge coin in her pocket, Marcus's gift from the day she became a SEAL. "Semper Fi, baby," he'd said. Always faithful. Alexander Pierce had once saved her child's life. Tonight, maybe she could return the favor. Derek Stone moved through the Grand Meridian Hotel like a predator who already owned the ground. He walked on. His calm confidence came from the decades of perfect kills. Politicians who asked too many questions. Journalists who exposed the wrong truths. Whistleblowers who refused to stay quiet. Derek had silenced them all. In his world, money bought silence, fear kept order, and violence ended every argument. At 7:30 p.m., his team gathered in the narrow service corridor behind the main lobby. 4 men, all professionals in their dark suits, stood waiting for his command. Victor, the Russian demolitions expert. Carter, the Taiwanese sniper. Hassan, the Syrian interrogation specialist. Rodriguez, the Colombian knife artist. Together, they were worth $50 million in blood money. "Check weapons," Derek ordered. They opened their cases and displayed their tools: silenced pistols, ceramic knives that wouldn't set off detectors, explosives hidden in mint boxes. Their movements were precise and silent, the kind of discipline that came from years of killing. "Remember the story," Derek said, showing the hotel's map on his encrypted tablet. "Pierce resists during a robbery, fights back, gets shot. Tragic accident. No politics, no investigations." Victor nodded, screwing the suppressor onto his gun. "What about witnesses?" "Handled," Derek replied smoothly. Gas leak drill cleared most of the staff. Cameras already looped. Security guard and desk clerk both paid off. Police distracted by a fake emergency downtown. "By the time anyone reacts, we'll be ghosts." The men smirked. They'd done this before. While they reviewed their positions, Kesha Williams was finishing up in the executive suite upstairs. Her years in the Navy had trained her to read a room like a battlefield. Every reflection, every sound, every flicker of movement meant something. As she cleaned, she listened through vents, through walls, through whispers in the hallway. The assassins thought they were alone, but Kesha was mapping their every move. She memorized every exit and every blind corner. 37 escape routes, 14 floors with uneven security, 63 rooms where civilians might hide if chaos broke out. She moved silently, processing the entire hotel layout like a living tactical map. At 8 o'clock, she changed. Gone was the hotel uniform. From her emergency locker, she pulled out black tactical clothes, fitted perfectly to her lean frame. Her SEAL instincts had never left her. She checked her gear: makeshift weapons hidden across the building, a ceramic knife taped under the sink, zip ties in cleaning carts, cleaning chemicals she could turn into blinding smoke if needed. From the basement security monitors, she watched Derek's team take their final positions. They moved like soldiers, checking corners and hand signaling instead of talking. These weren't ordinary killers, they were trained, just like she had been. Derek stood near the marble fountain in the center of the lobby, scrolling through his phone, his eyes always scanning. At 8:15, he gathered his team for final words. "Remember," he said, "this needs to look natural. Pierce fights back, gets shot, dies. No witnesses, no politics." Victor asked, "What about that cleaning woman from earlier?" Derek laughed. "You mean that pathetic black __? She ran back to her ghetto hours ago. These people know their place." Hassan frowned. "Still, she could be a witness." "Please," Derek scoffed. "She's a maid. Probably can't spell her own name. These people scrub toilets. They don't think about operations like this. Even if she heard us, what's she gonna do, call her welfare officer? He chuckled, dismissing the idea entirely. They don't talk to police. They know what happens to snitchies in their neighborhoods. His arrogance blinded him. He couldn't imagine that someone like Kesha could be a threat. But Kesha was already moving above them, crawling through narrow ventilation shafts, eyes fixed on the killers below. Every movement was silent, every breath measured. She was the ghost they'd never planned for. Through the vent grates, she saw Derek check his watch, 8:27. 3 minutes until Alexander Pierce would step through those glass doors. 5 trained assassins waited below. But tonight, they weren't the only predators in the building. Kesha's breathing slowed to combat rhythm, her pulse steady, her body focused. She thought of her children, safe at home, and whispered, "Mommy's coming back." But first, Mommy has work to finish. The hotel lobby was no longer a luxury space, it was a war zone. She studied every marble pillar, chandelier, and fountain, planning her moves with soldier's logic. Pillars would be cover, chandeliers could be distractions, fountains could be weapons. Her plan was simple: drop down, create chaos, protect Alexander. Below, Derek stood by the main entrance, his gun hidden in his jacket. His team was spaced perfectly across the lobby. No blind spots, no escape routes. Kesha checked her watch and cinched it to theirs. 60 seconds until Pierce walked in. She remembered Fallujah. 6 SEALs surrounded by 40 enemies. They'd survived by using surprise and speed. She could do this again. She had to. Derek adjusted his tie, calm and sure. To him, this was routine, just another payday. 30 seconds. Kesha gripped her improvised weapons, cleaning chemicals that could burn eyes, metal tools that could become clubs. 15 seconds. She heard footsteps echo in the corridor outside. Alexander Pierce was approaching, unaware that death waited just ahead. The assassins tensed. Hands hovered near hidden weapons. But they'd forgotten one rule of combat: always watch your 6. At 8:30 sharp, Alexander Pierce entered the lobby, scrolling through his phone. The marble floor gleamed under his shoes. The place looked empty, but every elegant detail hid danger. Derek stepped forward from behind the fountain, pistol raised, voice calm. "Mr. Pierce, we represent people who don't like your testimony." Alexander froze. From every direction, men stepped out, guns drawn. No escape, no chance. "You think killing me will stop the truth?" Alexander said, backing against the marble wall. Derek smiled coldly. "Truth is irrelevant. Dead men don't talk." The assassins closed in, guns steady. Derek raised his pistol for the kill shot. "Any last words, Mr. Pierce?" he asked. Alexander's voice was quiet but steady. "Yeah, you picked the wrong hotel." The ceiling tiles above them shifted and Kesha Williams dropped like a storm from the heavens. Kesha Williams landed silently behind Victor, the nearest gunman. 20 years of SEAL training exploded into one smooth motion. Her ceramic knife found the exact spot below his ear, quick, clean, and final. Victor collapsed instantly, weapon clattering across the marble floor. The sound drew the others' attention. Carter, the Taiwanese sniper, spun around, gun rising. But Kesha was already moving, her body flowed like water. She grabbed his wrist, redirected the barrel toward the ceiling, then slammed her elbow into his throat with deadly precision. He couldn't breathe. Before he fell, she pivoted, sending him crashing through a glass table. Shards exploded across the lobby like tiny diamonds under the lights. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Derek turned, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. The woman he'd mocked, the one he'd called worthless, was moving through his team like a ghost of war. "What the hell, who are you?" he shouted, raising his gun. Kesha didn't answer. Combat wasn't about words, it was about movement, timing, instinct. Hassan, the Syrian operative, lunged from the left, knife glinting in his hand. His attack was strong but sloppy, born from anger instead of focus. Kesha ducked, caught his arm, twisted it, and swept his legs from under him. His face slammed against the marble fountain with a sickening crack. The water turned pink as his body slumped into the pool. By now, guests were emerging from elevators and restaurants, drawn by the noise. Phones came out, cameras recording from every angle. Within seconds, live streams flooded TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Millions would soon witness what no one in that hotel could believe: a hotel maid taking down an international assassination squad. Rodriguez, the knife expert, drew his backup pistol. His hands trembled. Kesha was faster. She snatched a heavy brass lamp from the front desk and used it as a shield. His bullet sparked against the metal base. She swung the lamp in one brutal arc, driving it into his ribs. The sound of bones cracking echoed through the room. He gasped, weapon dropping as Kesha followed with a knee strike to his temple. Rodriguez collapsed, motionless. 90 seconds. That's all it took. Derek Stone's flawless plan fell apart before his eyes. His elite team professionals worth millions lay unconscious or dead across the marble floor. The cleaning woman he'd insulted stood calm and steady among them. "This is impossible," Derek whispered, his voice trembling for the first time in 20 years. Kesha turned toward him, eyes steady, breathing controlled. "You should have watched your six," she said quietly. Derek's gun shook as he aimed it at her, but she moved first. A blur of speed, she grabbed his wrist, twisted hard, and forced the weapon to the ground. It hit the marble with a sharp clatter. In one smooth motion, she swept his legs and pinned him face down beside the fountain. "Clean up on aisle 5, she said coolly, keeping her foot pressed against his neck while checking Alexander for injuries. Guests screamed. Others cheered. Dozens of phones captured the entire fight from start to finish. The footage spread across the internet like wildfire. Hashtags appeared within minutes. Hashtag housekeeper hero. Hashtag hotel assassins. Hashtag invisible no more. Videos showed a black woman in a cleaning uniform standing in the center of chaos, surrounded by defeated killers. Blood streaked across the marble. Shattered crystal glittered round her feet. She didn't look afraid. She looked like justice. Moments later, real hotel security burst through the lobby doors. Sirens wailed outside as police flooded in. They froze when they saw the scene-armed men down, weapons everywhere, and one calm hotel worker standing over them. "This woman attacked us first." Derek coughed, blood on his lips. "She's a terrorist. She tried to kill us." Kesha didn't flinch. "I was protecting Mr. Pierce from an assassination attempt," she said firmly, her voice steady. Her military bearing was impossible to miss now. Alexander stepped forward, his face pale but determined. "She saved my life. These men were here to murder me. She's the reason I'm still breathing." The officers looked between the billionaire and the bloodied men. Cameras were still rolling. The whole world was already watching. Within minutes, social media exploded. The videos went viral in real time, clips analyzed, slowed down, replayed. Hashtags spread worldwide. News outlets picked it up. Hotel housekeeper Foyle's international assassins was trending by sunrise. Across Moscow and Beijing, Derek's employers watched in horror. Their perfect operation had become a global embarrassment. An elite assassination team, destroyed by a hotel maid. But they weren't done. If they couldn't silence Alexander Pierce quietly, they would destroy his savior publicly. Kesha Williams was about to learn that sometimes saving a life can cost you everything. Within 6 hours, the video of Kesha Williams taking down 5 armed assassins had spread across every platform in the world. She was a hero to millions until the people she had just exposed decided to turn that fame into her downfall. The counterattack began quietly. Derek's handlers, men with unlimited money and powerful friends, knew how to destroy people without bullets. They launched their best weapon: information warfare. It started on small online forums filled with conspiracy theories. Anonymous posts began to appear. Why did a hotel maid fight like a trained soldier? Was this entire thing staged? Did the billionaire pay her to fake an attack? Soon, bot accounts and paid trolls picked up those lies. Thousands of fake profiles repeated the same doubts until people started to believe them. The hashtags changed from hashtag housekeeper hero to hashtag staged assassination and hashtag violent veteran. Kesha's past became ammunition. Her time in the Navy SEALs, once a source of pride, was twisted into evidence that she was dangerous and unstable. Leaked documents altered and taken out of context claimed she had been discharged for psychological instability. Cable news shows replayed her footage side by side with captions like, "Is this hero actually a threat?" Lawyers hired by Derek's employers filed lawsuits within days: assault with a deadly weapon, reckless endangerment, conspiracy to fake an attack. The assassin she had defeated suddenly became businessmen who were viciously assaulted by an unstable employee. Online comments that once called her brave now called her violent. She should have called the cops instead of playing Rambo. Typical veteran with anger issues. Hotels need better background checks. It was a perfect reversal, truth buried under professional lies. Protesters, paid by the same dark money, appeared outside the Grand Meridian carrying signs that said "No more military violence" and "Justice for the assault victims." News stations covered it all. No one questioned who was paying for those signs. Kesha's personal life collapsed with terrifying speed. At school, Maya was cornered by classmates chanting, "Your mom's the psycho from the news." A teacher nearby pretended not to hear. Someone spray-painted "Killer's Kid" on her locker. Jordan came home crying, his head bleeding where older kids had thrown rocks. "They said my mommy hurts people," he sobbed. "They said we should go back to Africa." Kesha held him close, fighting tears she refused to show. Her mother called from Atlanta, voice shaking. "Baby, the church folks are saying you brought violence into God's house. The Reverend told me not to come to service this week." The Grand Meridian placed Kesha on administrative leave while they investigated the incident. Lawyers for the hotel sent quiet warnings to other companies, labeling her a security risk. Job applications went unanswered. Bills piled up. The woman who had saved lives was now being treated like a criminal. Her court-appointed lawyer was a young public defender buried under hundreds of cases, barely able to return calls. Meanwhile, Derek Stone had an army of high-priced attorneys who specialized in protecting war criminals and billion-dollar corporations. Even Alexander Pierce, who she'd risked her life to protect, was under pressure. His board members feared the scandal would hurt their company's stock. Investors whispered that distancing himself from Kesha might be strategically wise. Maybe, they suggested, he should settle quietly. Meanwhile, Derek had become the face of the victims. His bruised face appeared on every major news channel. With fake humility and carefully applied makeup, he told his story. "I hold no anger toward this deeply troubled woman," he said calmly on CNN. "She clearly suffers from untreated military trauma. I forgive her, but society can't allow dangerous people like this to threaten innocent civilians." It was theater and it worked. Millions believed him. Hashtags like #forgiveness not vengeance trended worldwide. Hotel security footage disappeared during routine maintenance. Witnesses changed their stories. Even the assassins she'd defeated now claimed they were unarmed businessmen. Official police reports painted Kesha as delusional, a struggling hotel maid who snapped under financial stress and attacked random guests. Her SEAL history was framed as proof she was unstable. Words like violent tendencies and psychological break filled the reports. By the end of the week, her apartment was half empty, packed with boxes she couldn't afford to move. An eviction notice was taped to the door. She sat on the floor, watching news anchors call her a liar, a monster, a terrorist. "Mommy," Maya whispered one night, hiding under the blanket beside her. "Are we bad people now? Are we going to jail too?" That question shattered Kesha's heart in ways no battlefield ever had. Everything she'd fought to protect, her family, her name, her honor, was being destroyed by invisible hands. Derek Stone watched from afar, satisfied. He'd done this before. Wealth and power always crushed people like her. He thought it was over, but his greed would push him too far. His arrogance would make him careless. And when he made one final, brutal mistake, he'd bring the FBI straight to his door. Derek Stone believed he had won. His lies were working, the media was on his side, and Kesha Williams was collapsing under the weight of his campaign. But arrogance is dangerous. It makes powerful men sloppy. He wanted more than victory. He wanted revenge. His lawyers pushed for federal terrorism charges, demanding that Kesha spend the rest of her life in prison. He appeared on talk shows, smiling into cameras, pretending to be the calm victim of a violent woman. Each interview became more cruel than the last. "She's unstable," he said with fake sympathy. "She needs treatment, not freedom." But Derek's ego had drawn attention from people who saw through his lies. FBI Special Agent Sarah Martinez, a veteran investigator who had spent 20 years chasing real terrorists, watched his interviews with growing suspicion. Something about Derek's story didn't add up. Why did innocent businessmen carry encrypted military communication devices? How had they disabled hotel cameras so cleanly? And why were two of the victims listed in Interpol's terrorism database under false names? Sarah started digging. She pulled travel records, security logs, and digital footprints. Piece by piece, the picture became clear this wasn't a hotel brawl. It was an international assassination attempt. Meanwhile, Derek's team continued their smear campaign, but cracks were forming. Kesha had started receiving anonymous threats calls in the night, voices whispering her children's names. One call came at 2:00 a.m. A man's voice said calmly, "Your daughter walks to school at 7:30. Your son plays in the courtyard after 4. Smart mothers know when to stop talking to the police." Then the line went dead. Kesha's instincts roared awake. The soldier in her wanted to hunt them down, to fight back. But the mother in her knew that one wrong move could destroy everything. She filed a report, but even the police treated her like a problem, not a victim. Which identity would survive, the warrior who protected others, or the mother trying to keep her children safe? Then Derek made his biggest mistake. Through his lawyers, he sent a message. He wanted to meet privately to end this peacefully. He said he didn't want more destruction. The location he chose was no coincidence, the Grand Meridian Hotel lobby, the same place where his plan had first fallen apart. Kesha agreed, though she didn't trust him for a second. She arrived alone, wearing her best dress instead of a uniform. Her heart pounded as she walked through the lobby. Polished marble floors, the same floors she used to mop. Derek stood by the fountain, confident and sharp in an expensive suit. He smiled when he saw her. "Miss Williams," he said smoothly, "thank you for coming. I think we can resolve this like civilized adults." She crossed her arms. "Cut the act, Derek. What do you want?" He chuckled, like a man certain of victory. "Direct, I appreciate that." He pulled a tablet from his briefcase. "I'm prepared to offer you a settlement, $5 million, sealed records, new identities for your children, relocation to anywhere in the world." Kesha's eyes narrowed. "In exchange for what?" "For the truth," he said with a smirk. "You admit you overreacted because of military trauma. You apologize for your unprovoked attack, check into treatment, and disappear quietly. Your kids get safe schools, good lives. You get to keep breathing." His voice softened, like a devil offering mercy. "Everyone wins. Except the truth." Kesha stared at him. "You really think truth can be bought?" He laughed, the sound echoing off the marble walls. "Look around, Kesha. Truth is whatever people believe, and people believe what we tell them to believe. You're finished. Your reputation, your job, your family, it's all gone. The smart move is to sign." He leaned closer, voice low and venomous. "Your daughter cries every night. Your son's afraid of strangers. Every day this continues, you destroy them more. You think you're protecting them, but you're the reason they're suffering." Kesha's chest tightened. For a second, his words pierced her armor. Maybe he was right. Maybe walking away was mercy. Derek sensed her hesitation and pressed harder. "What happens when the terrorism charges stick? You'll spend life in prison. Maya and Jordan will grow up knowing their mother chose pride over peace. Think about them." He turned the tablet toward her, showing high-resolution photos. Maya walking to school, Jordan on the playground, her mother shopping in Atlanta. "These were taken yesterday," he said softly. "My associates are very good at finding people. But I'm reasonable, Kesha. I don't want anyone hurt. Sign the papers and everyone stays safe." He smiled gently. "You get money. Your children get safety. That's a fair deal, isn't it?" For a brief, terrible moment, Kesha almost believed him. The exhaustion, the fear, the endless fighting, it all pressed down on her shoulders. Then something inside her snapped back into place. Her eyes hardened. "Derek," she said quietly, reaching into her purse, "I have a confession too." She placed a small device on the table. A tiny red light blinked. "What the hell is that?" Derek snapped. "Insurance," she said calmly. "This entire conversation is being streamed live to FBI agent Sarah Martinez. and the Joint Terrorism Task Force waiting outside. Derek's smug expression shattered. You can't record me without consent. Washington is a one-party consent state, Kesha replied coldly. And your threats against my family just became federal crimes intimidation. Stalking across state lines, interstate conspiracy. For the first time, Derek Stone looked afraid. Kesha's voice remained steady. Agent Martinez ran facial recognition on your team from the hotel footage. They're wanted in 12 countries for assassination contracts. Your operation is finished, Derek, not just this hit, all of it. The journalists in London, the prosecutor in Prague, the lawyer in Brazil, every murder traces back to you. He froze, realization flooding his face. You thought I was just a maid, Kesha said quietly. But I'm the one who ended your career. Suddenly, armed FBI agents poured out from service corridors, weapons drawn. Derek Stone, Agent Martinez called out, "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, terrorism, and about 50 other crimes that'll keep you in prison forever." Derek tried to speak, but words failed him as handcuffs snapped around his wrists. Kesha stood over him, the same spot where he'd once threatened to kill her. But now, she wasn't invisible anymore. She was Justice. The news of Derek Stone's arrest exploded like a global earthquake. By sunrise, FBI raids were underway in 12 countries. Safe houses were raided in London, Prague, and Dubai. Computers, encrypted phones, and stacks of fake passports filled tables in federal evidence rooms. Dozens of Derek's associates were captured, hitmen, handlers, and corrupt officials who had spent years hiding in the shadows. The man who once called Kesha Williams worthless now sat in an orange jumpsuit, facing 17 life sentences. His empire of death had fallen, destroyed by the woman he had underestimated most. Derek's trial became a worldwide sensation. Prosecutors showed proof that his network had murdered journalists, activists, and lawyers across 4 continents. Each victim had one thing in common: they had threatened powerful interests. Oil companies, corrupt politicians, pharmaceutical giants, all had paid Derek to silence the truth. The jury needed only 37 minutes to decide. Guilty on all counts. When the verdict was read, Derek looked across the courtroom at Kesha. His eyes burned with disbelief. The woman he'd mocked as invisible was now the reason he'd die behind bars. Alexander Pierce kept his promise. The next morning, he stood before reporters and announced the creation of the Invisible Heroes Foundation, starting with a $100 million donation. Kesha Williams showed us that heroism wears work uniforms, he told the crowd. Janitors, security guards, housekeepers, maintenance workers, they see everything. Now they'll have protection when they speak the truth. Kesha was offered the position of Director of Corporate Security at Pierce Industries. Her monthly salary was more than she'd once made in 2 years. But the title wasn't what mattered most, it was the respect. Her opinions now carried weight in board meetings. Her policies protected workers as much as executives. Her children's lives changed too. The bullying stopped. Maya's classmates now called her the hero's daughter. Jordan was finally proud to tell people who his mother was. At Maya's middle school graduation, she stood on stage and said, "My mom taught me that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless." The crowd gave her a standing ovation. Jordan joined the wrestling team and carried his mother's strength with him. Strength, he told his coach, isn't how hard you hit, it's how much you can protect. Soon, Congress began investigating Derek's global network. Kesha testified before the House Committee about invisible workers who saw corporate crimes, but feared to speak out. Her testimony helped pass the Williams Worker Protection Act, a law that strengthened whistleblower rights and required safety training for all corporate staff. Republicans praised her as a veteran protecting civilians. Democrats called her a voice for the working class. For once, both sides agreed. The world began to change. The hashtag invisible no more spread worldwide. Housekeepers in London started reporting harassment. Janitors in Tokyo exposed illegal dumping. Security guards in Mumbai blew the whistle on bribery. Kesha's courage had sparked a movement. The Grand Meridian Hotel became a symbol of that change. The management raised wages, offered better benefits, and trained guests to treat workers with respect. Other hotels followed, hoping to avoid the same kind of viral disaster. Meanwhile, Derek Stone's old allies faced their own consequences. His Russian contacts were expelled from diplomatic missions. His Chinese handlers lost their cover. American business partners found themselves under federal investigation. The network that once seemed untouchable was gone. As for Derek, prison life was brutal. Even among criminals, he was despised, the man who murdered for money, who threatened children, who mocked women for their skin color. He spent most days alone, locked in protective custody. The guards barely acknowledged him. The world had moved on. 6 months after his conviction, Kesha visited him once, not for closure, but for clarity. She sat across from him behind thick glass. Derek looked thinner, older, his confidence gone. "You once asked me what I was," she said quietly. "I'm a mother who protects her children, a veteran who honors her oath, a worker who demands dignity. You saw weakness, but you were really looking at strength." Derek said nothing. His eyes darted away, unable to meet hers. "Maya's applying to the Naval Academy next year," Kesha continued. "Jordan wants to be a teacher. They're proud of their mother now. That's worth more than all your blood money ever could be." She stood to leave, then looked back one last time. "By the way, your old hotel room is now the staff break area. Every day, workers eat lunch where you plan murder. Feels like justice, doesn't it?" Derek didn't answer. He couldn't. A year later, Kesha walked through the same marble lobby, this time wearing her new security uniform. Guests and staff greeted her by name. The same floor she once mopped now reflected her badge of authority. The transformation was complete, from shadow to spotlight, from dismissed to respected, from invisible to unforgettable. Derek Stone had tried to erase her. Instead, he had made her story immortal. 18 months after Derek Stone was sentenced to 17 life terms, documentary filmmaker Maria Santos sat across from Kesha Williams in her new office on the top floor of the Grand Meridian Hotel. Through the glass walls, the same lobby where everything had changed stretched out below them, bright and peaceful. People often asked Kesha if she felt different now. She smiled and said, "I'm still the same person I've always been. The only thing that changed is that I stopped being afraid to let people see who I am." The world certainly saw her now. Derek's conviction had started a chain reaction that reached across the globe. 47 countries opened investigations. 340 arrests were made. More than $4 billion in stolen assets were recovered and returned to victims' families. The Invisible Heroes Foundation, which had started as Alexander Pierce's promise, now operated in 63 countries. It provided legal protection for service workers, janitors, drivers, security guards, and housekeepers who witnessed crimes and dared to speak up. Kesha's influence reached far beyond hotels. Housekeepers in Bangkok helped expose human trafficking rings. Airport janitors in Germany uncovered terrorist funding operations. Office cleaners in New York revealed insider trading schemes. Every month brought new heroes stepping out of the shadows, ordinary people who refused to stay silent. Maya, now 19, stood proudly in her Naval Academy uniform at graduation. In her speech, she said, "My mother taught me that being unseen isn't weakness, it's reconnaissance. But knowing when to stand up and fight, that's real strength." Jordan, 15 and captain of his wrestling team, mentored younger kids about courage. His favorite saying came straight from his mother: "Strength isn't how hard you can hit, it's how much you can protect." The hospitality industry changed forever because of Kesha's testimony before Congress. The Williams Worker Protection Act was expanded worldwide. All service staff were now required to have emergency panic buttons. Guest background checks became mandatory in VIP areas. Whistleblower rights were strengthened. Corporate leaders took notice. Boardrooms became quieter, more careful. Executives learned that the janitor sweeping the floor might be the one recording their crimes. Alexander Pierce's company went public at record value, and Kesha joined the board of directors. Her military precision reshaped corporate security policies that soon became industry standards. Companies began recruiting veterans for leadership roles, people who knew how to protect, not just profit. Meanwhile, Derek Stone's world had shrunk to an 8x10 concrete cell in a Colorado Supermax prison. 23 hours a day, he sat alone, no phone, no visitors, no future. His old penthouse, seized under the RICO Act, had been turned into transitional housing for struggling veterans. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Even hardened inmates despised him. He spent his days in protective custody, a forgotten relic of arrogance and hate. The man who had once looked down on others now had to beg guards just to be seen. Kesha's new life was full of purpose. She traveled across countries giving talks to soldiers, workers, and executives. Her message never changed. Dignity isn't something others give you, it's something you claim for yourself. Every one of us has been invisible to someone. The question isn't whether you'll be underestimated. It's what you'll do when that moment comes. Her viral videos had reached nearly 1 billion views. Universities used her story in business ethics courses. Military programs studied her tactics in asymmetric combat. 3 best-selling books told her story from different angles: Invisible No More, The Hotel Warrior, and From Shadows to Spotlight. Each inspired a new wave of courage. Workers around the world started filming abuse, exposing corruption, and demanding better treatment. Her story became more than a moment, it became a movement. By the time Kesha received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, she had become a symbol of modern courage. 23 honorary degrees, hundreds of speaking invitations, millions of followers. But when asked how she measured success, her answer was simple. It's not about medals or numbers. Success is when an ordinary worker feels seen. As Maria's camera rolled for the documentary, Kesha looked straight into the lens. Who are the invisible heroes in your life? She asked softly. The people who protect, clean, fix, and serve without being noticed. See them, thank them, respect them. Text appeared on the screen as inspiring music played, dedicated to invisible workers everywhere. The ones who keep the world running while dreaming of being seen. The final shot showed Kesha training new recruits in the hotel's security division, teaching them that true protection wasn't just about stopping threats, it was about creating safety and dignity for everyone.